This is Conversations with Ronnie Keith. Thank you guys for joining us here with Conversations with Ronnie Keith. I am your host, Ronnie Keith, with my co-host, as she's here, not every other week like she should be, but as much as possible.
That's right.
This is my wife, Iris. We are back here.
Hola, mi gente.
How you doing today, baby?
I'm very good. I heard some positive feedbacks about the hola, mi gente.
Well, yeah, people are loving
I appreciate the love and support.
the nice little commercial that you're doing, that you did, that is on the Short Disc podcast. And, you know, people are really loving it.
I'm so happy you guys think that.
So I just want to say thank you guys so much for supporting, for downloading, for following us. We really appreciate it.
Yes.
Conversations with Ronnie Keith is doing very well. I just want to thank you guys for that. I've had a lot of people on. I've got 11 countries following us right now.
Woo!
52 cities are downloading us. 52 different cities are downloading us. And so just want to tell you guys, thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate it.
The love and support, all appreciated.
Yes.
Blessings.
Yes. And we also have some support in the way of what they call fan mail. So if you guys are listening to the Conversations with Ronnie Keith podcast, which you are right now, there's a little thing there when you open up the podcast, whatever streaming app that you listen to us on, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, YouTube, even, whatever it is. Right there's a little highlighted link as soon as you open up the podcast and like in the descriptions area, and it says send us a text message. So what it does is you click that and it will pop up, and it seems like it's going to take you to a website, but it actually pops up a text message in your text messages, and you can send us a text message about anything that you want, any single thing that you want, that not only for me and my wife, but the other guests that I have on here, you know, from time to time. Please just send us a text message. We'll read it on air. It doesn't disclose your name. It doesn't give us any information other than the city that you are texting us from, and it pops up for us. But other than that, it doesn't give any personal information unless you want us to know who you are asking us a question. So on the next episode that Iris and I will be doing, we're going to do an Ask Us Anything. That's just asking us questions pertaining to
anything
us.
You want to know.
Yeah, our marriage, or even if it's advice that you may have. We're not experts here. We're not experts at all. But if you have advice, if you have a question for Iris and I,
suggestions,
anything,
emotional outbursts, anything,
send it. Hit that link when you open up this podcast to listen to us again on any streaming platform that you listen. It's right there highlighted. It says send us a text. Click that. It will send us a text, like an email for us, that says fan mail to our Buzzsprout account, and we will answer it. And again, unless you want your name attached to it, don't put your name there. We won't know who it is. All we'll know the city and state that the fan mail has come to us from. And so
I love it.
Please do that as you listen to this episode. You can do it as you listen to this episode. Any questions that you have, and we will be responding back to you on the next episode. Will it be nothing but questions answered?
So bring it on. Any questions?
Yeah. And we may not be able to get to all of them. And so there'll be like a part 2, a part 3, part 4, but we'll try to answer it in depth as much as possible.
Oh, I'm just thankful for questions. I love it. I'm just blessed.
Yes. And so before we get into today's show, we do want to start off with some fan mail that we did receive. And this is coming from Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Nice.
And I guess it's giving away who it is, because it says, we are now regularly using a cake in the park on a regular. Dwayne said, that sounds lovely. Love hearing your story.
Cake in the park.
Love hearing your story. We don't get to spend time together. Yeah, cake in the park. Yeah, a cake in the park.
Yeah.
We don't get to spend time together, but feel like I'm getting to know you.
Oh, I love that.
So,
I know who's that from.
Yes. So thank you
Thank
for
you, Sarah.
that fan mail. We really appreciate that. And so, like I said, next episode, ask us anything. So when you hear this, please submit. Just send us a text. Boom, it comes, and boom, we'll read it. So it's very, very helpful. And if you guys are not listeners of the Short Desk podcast, that is my other podcast that started back in 2021. Please take the time out to listen.
Woo-hoo.
Those shows drop on every Tuesday with my co-hosts, John, Steph, and Dwayne. We talk about everything that's going on in the world. We have a top 5 or review of a movie or album, TV show, John's Financial Corner, Steph's reality show, sports with Dwayne, and news. And so we really just break it all down to you in our funny own way there.
It's like I tell people, download, listen, and share. That's all you got to do.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So speaking of the Short Desk podcast, there was a story a couple of weeks ago that I didn't really get into, but I did get into, and that was pertaining to Iris's story. So last month was Iris's birthday, and it was her 40th. And so, we celebrate, want to do something a little bit different. We didn't do a party, but we stayed out at these, it's called the Fort Wilderness Lodge out there at Walt Disney World. It's like you're in a cabin, but it's Disney controlled, right?
So cool.
No bears, at least that we saw, or anything. But we had
crazy animals,
right? So we had a great time, and as I talked on the show, I said, not just because she's 40, we did all these things, but we were celebrating life because we've had a very, very tough. We had a very tough ending of last year. And it didn't stop. It went all the way through up until this year. And thank God that, we've been blessed and we see the light at the end of the tunnel, right? And so it wasn't my story to tell. She gave the okay for me to tell it on that show. But I said, no, I'm going to bring it back here and we're going to talk about it today. Now, we finished the introduction of us, which was how we met, when we got married and everything. So randomly, we'll be talking about different stories, things that has happened, things that are, we're working on, intimate things, things like that we will invite you into our relationship. And again, if you guys have questions, we'll definitely answer them and all those things. So again, I'm going to let you go into it, baby, and I'll, be there to ad lib. But we're going to talk about what happened on Christmas Day. Well, actually, we can start with Christmas Eve, and then, the journey that you've been on and we've been on together as a couple.
Absolutely.
So you take it from here.
Oh, well, thank you so much. And again, this is in full transparency, and I promise I'm going to give it to you all raw as to what happened. And thank you for allowing me to share this story, not only from a personal perspective, but I want to make sure that it raises awareness to this cause or to what happened to me. And just to unpack the story a little bit further for you all, on Christmas Day of last year, well, before that, I want you guys to know that our house is the Christmas Eve house where everybody gets together. We share family time. Everybody eats, and it was phenomenal this year. And
let me say this: it's been something, right? Because traditionally in my family, we always got together on Christmas Day, and so when Iris and I became one of the
he turned into a Latino.
With Latinos is they get together Christmas
Noche
Eve.
Buena.
And so that took a little, at first it was like, okay, we'll do Christmas Eve here, then with my family on Christmas Day, right? But then we started incorporating everyone together, and now nobody wants to do anything Christmas Day. Like I remember one year I was
Yeah.
like, oh, we're just going to switch it up this year. And my mom threw a fit. Like, no, we don't. No,
And
it's
Pops
Christmas Eve.
too,
Yeah,
remember?
he did. He threw
Yeah.
a fit too. He's like, no, we're going to do this Christmas Eve,
Pops.
Christmas Eve. So it was, it was a Christmas. It's been a Christmas Eve tradition, like Iris said, and we have everybody over where we cook and in competition too, huh?
You know what? I knew you were going to say that, but let me just say it right now. We have a little internal competition between us because I feel that you get more love when you cook Christmas Eve than me.
Why do you feel that?
You know what? Because the last couple of times my mom is like, oh, Keith, you didn't make fish?
The last couple of times? You mean,
Yeah,
like
the
every
last
year?
couple of times.
You mean
And then
every year?
like,
Every year she asks?
whatever. And then the year before I made my arroz con gandules, which is rice and pigeon peas. And, I do the whole 9 yards. And
But I mean, you make that regularly.
empanada.
That's not like a special dish, right? I don't.
Did I make a
regularly
pernil?
fish. Yeah, you made a pernil.
Or should I say the white people way, pernil?
Pernil.
I made a pernil.
You made
No offense, people. No offense.
You made that.
I made a bomb, like badass pernil.
Was that last year?
No, yeah, it was last year that my dad was like, "Did you get this catered?" I was like, "Dad, I made that." Hello. So if you guys don't know, but that's just on a regular basis. Keith and I, my wonderful hubby and I, we have like silent competitions with food.
I think you have a competition by yourself. 'Cause
No,
I'm not
sir.
in competition
No,
with you.
sir.
I'm
So-
just cooking.
I'll constantly ask our close friends and families, like, so did you like it? Do you think Keith's food was better? What do you think could be different? So we're asking always, our friends, like, hey, what's going on? And I know
are.
that my
I'm good.
sister-in-law's probably hearing this. My mother-in-law's hearing this. And our brother from another mother is probably shaking his head right now because he's like, oh, yeah, they definitely have a competition.
You have a competition.
Whatever. But I was up on my feet all day and it's pretty common. And just to backtrack a little bit, this particular Christmas was very special last year. And it was very special in the sense that we went through an unexpected loss with our family member. My father-in-law passed away, Keith's dad, and that was hard for the family. And it only meant for us to be more united and closer in Christmas Eve time. So it was very, very meaningful for us. And everybody had a great time. Same for Thanksgiving. So the next day later.
And then also, I do want to add that, to put that in context,
Sure.
the previous year, my aunt lost her husband, my uncle. And so it was back to back.
Yeah, that
loss
was
like
hard.
that. So, my aunt, that later on that year, of course, she was here with us, and so again, here with us and my cousin and everything, but now her and her sister, which is my mom, experiencing the loss back to back. So it was very special because
Of course.
they're there to support each other, which they have been doing. But I'm sorry.
Yeah. And it's just in times like this, you realized how close and how meaningful family time is. And I was just so grateful for us to celebrate such a beautiful and meaningful Christmas Eve. So that meant a lot to me. But the day after Christmas, we were all just chilling and watching movies. We typically do at Home Alone, just the old school stuff and Charlie Brown. And we were cleaning. I usually make breakfast for the family and I do everything like homemade. Even my pancakes are from scratch, everything. So I look at my leg and I notice there is a slight bump right on my upper thigh, I would say. And it looked red and a little bit swollen there. And I looked at it and my first reaction was like, that's weird. And I started touching it and it was hot to the touch. And in addition to that, it looked like maybe like a bee sting, right? Like a bug, bit me or something like that. And my first instinct was to ask my husband. I asked Keith, I was like, hey, baby, what do you think this looks like? This is rather weird. And you were like, what did you say?
I said, Yeah, it looks like a bump, like you've been bit or something like that. Yeah, that's what I said to you.
My mother-in-law also said the same thing, and my sister-in-law. As a matter of fact, I call mommy, my mom, and she was like, "Ay, nena, that doesn't look good. I don't know what that is."
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, "What do you think this is, Mom? This is just weird, you know?" And she was like, "I don't know. That doesn't look like a bug bite to me, or a bite or
That's
whatever."
what she said.
And I was like, "I think you need to go to the hospital or go seek medical attention." So again, everything is closed Christmas Day pretty much. But so happened is that I actually had a podiatrist appointment the week prior. And the day after Christmas, I had an appointment with a vascular doctor. And let me tell you how things worked out. It's so peculiar, but I had seen a podiatrist, just a general routine office to get custom inserts. You know, you could do that. People like me that have plantar fasciitis and all that stuff need a custom inserts there instead of buying the regular doctor shows or whatever. So this particular podiatrist actually looks at my leg and he's like, "You know what, Iris? I don't like the way these veins look on your left leg. I really don't like that. I'm going to write you a referral to see a vascular doctor." And I was like, "Okay, great. I'll make the appointment whenever." I usually just brushed it off or whatever. But that's how that vascular appointment came about. So it so happened the next day later on Christmas Day, or actually the day after Christmas Day, I went to see the vascular doctor. And I saw this, doctor. I never met him. And I showed him, "Hey, I was supposed to go in for a consult again for my leg." And I was like, this came out of my leg. What is this? And he was like, "When did you started noticing this?" And I'm like, "Yesterday on Christmas Day." He was like, "Wow, it's hot to the touch and something's not right. Let me order an ultrasound for you urgently. And can you come back later that day?" Remember Dr. Norton? Yeah. Shout out to Dr. Norton. He is the most sassiest and peculiar doctor. And I'll get into him later because he's the best. Yeah. But anyhow, so I had to come back. I had to call out of work. I was like, "Hey guys, I can't come in. This is an emergency." Most of you guys that know me, I am very, how do I say it? I'm very, a highly working corporate lady. That's all I gotta say. Constantly reading emails, just working my butt off. Yes, I forget to take breaks and all that stuff, but that's just my role. But I was just like, "Hey, I have to cancel all meetings and all that good stuff." And I returned back maybe 2 or 3 hours later, and this gentleman saw me, and we had the ultrasound. And come to find out, they found a blood clot on my leg. And he was like, "There is a blood clot on your leg, and it's heading towards the direction of the main vein." And I don't know if you guys are aware what a deep vein thrombosis is, but the abbreviation for it is DVT. And it's basically a blood clot in the deep vein, usually in your legs. And it's very severe because it could, not only you could lose your life, but the blood clot could also travel to your lungs and or to your brain and basically cause death, So that day, and please remind me and keep me honest to our story here, Keith, but that day I rushed and I went to our nearby hospital here, which is,
No.
Was that the case?
So, okay.
Yeah, we went to UCF.
What happened is the doctor said, I asked him, I said, "Hey, his office is maybe about 45 minutes away from us." And so I said, okay. He was showing us the illustration of it. And
where Dr. Norton, let me just back up, and I'm sorry to interrupt you. He drew it for us. He told us where it is. Yeah. I mean, he is off the chain. Like, he will break it down for you. He even told me how close it is to the vein and everything. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. And so what he said to us is that her DVT, I'll say this the first day. He said, "Oh, it's traveling." He said, "But you guys are okay." And I said, "Well, where his office is, there's a hospital right there. It's in Winter Park." And I said, should we go here to Winter Park, or is it okay to go to the hospital over by us? Even though we don't live by UCF, UCF has a hospital that they built near us, right down the road from us. And he said, no, go home, go get what you need to do, and then go to the hospital.
Eliquis. He said I needed Eliquis.
Absolutely. So it was bad, but it wasn't like, oh my God, if you don't get to the hospital right now, it's going to go straight up to your heart.
Yes.
So we were like, oh, okay. So we we drove all the way back to the doctor's office, to the emergency
UCF,
room here.
Yes.
And so,
and they're pretty fast. It is a quick hospital. However, sometimes when you have hospitals that, how do I say it, are just too concerned and trying to get through their patients and just being very nonchalant in regards to the concern, they have this tendency to misdiagnose you. So mind you, I just left a vascular doctor's office who has been doing this for 20 something, I know actually 30 plus years, right? Mm-hmm. And he did confirm there is a blood clot there. You need to be on Eliquis. And I just want to backtrack a little bit for those that don't know what Eliquis is. Eliquis is a blood thinner. It is similar to warfarin. It is similar to Solreto. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Solreto. I hope I'm saying that right. Please forgive me as these drugs are a little bit fancy. I deal with that every day at work, by the way. But anyhow, it is a life-threatening, life-sustaining, saving medication. Typically, when you're prescribed Eliquis, you need to immediately get it, stat, urgently, like all those blood thinners, ASAP. So I went to UCF.
Because he wanted you to get a drip of it and then get the prescription.
Correct. So what Eliquis would have done, and I don't want to go down to the medical route here because I could break it down because I love medicine. But Eliquis would have basically disintegrated the blood clot and would have basically made it smaller and pushed it away from going to the main vein, pretty much preventing it. It's not a cure. It doesn't cure blood clots, but what it does, your blood gets thin, preventing the blood clot's growth and from entering the deep vein. Yeah. So moving along with our story here, we go to UCF. They see me. They basically do a scan of my leg. They say, oh, we don't find no blood clot. You're good. You don't have to go. You don't need to be on Eliquis. You don't need another scan. You don't need any of that. And of course, my dear husband here got upset with the doctor that was treating us at the time, who was one of those proud, younger type doctors, right? He was very arrogant and
extremely arrogant,
not sympathetic, like unsympathetic, and just didn't really care, you know.
And I'm, everything was very vivid in my mind with the illustration that the doctor, Dr. Norton had already illustrated for where the DVT, where that clot
and
was.
It was traveling aggressively.
Well, at that time we didn't know it was aggressive, but it was aggressive enough to where he wanted us to go to the emergency room. Right? So I'm drawing the illustration for the guy, and he still,
we took pictures of the ultrasound.
I took pictures of the ultrasound.
Again, this is life-threatening. We got to try to work fast.
Yeah, and so, he pretty much brushed me off. And so I'm getting pissed by the moment. I mean, I'm really getting pissed off.
Mind you, they did an ultrasound there. They did it. They were like, we don't see no blood clot. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Remember? They were like, huh?
Yeah, well, they said that you had a...
ER doctors.
What did they say you had?
An infection.
An infection.
Yeah.
So they wanted to get us out of there quickly, you know what I mean? Because, again, they like to move very fast. And I just told them, and so one of the young ladies who was a nurse, she said, listen, if you guys don't feel comfortable,
I can advocate for you.
Yeah.
That's what, and she was the best.
Yes.
Sweet as a button, right?
Yes.
She was such a sweetie pie.
So at that point, I was done with the hospital. I didn't want anything to do with them. I just told my wife, okay, we got another option. I could take you to another hospital, or would you like to see how the night goes? And first thing in the morning, I'll call Dr. Norton.
Yes.
And so you opted to come home. And so
I did. I decided to come home because I was like, okay, well, I'm going to work on getting this Eliquis. We're going to be fine. This is going to be taken care of. I was very positive throughout the whole process at this point. But when we went home that night, the pain was excruciating in my pain. And I'm sorry, in my leg. It was excruciating. And to stand hurt, to bend it hurt.
to walk hurt.
To walk hurt. It felt like I had like a giant piece of rod in my leg. I can't even explain it. For those that are listening who have experienced a blood clot, you of course may know, but it's a weird thing to explain here and to break it down. But I think that's the closest thing, like a giant rod on your leg.
Well, and
heaviness,
again, this wasn't just
tenderness.
a regular blood clot. This was a deep vein thrombosis, which is life-threatening.
Yes.
Immediately life-threatening. A lot of people, unfortunately, have lost their lives without thinking, acting quick enough. And so through the night, it's just, her leg was propped, everything. And so first thing that morning, 7 o'clock on the dot, I don't even think that, you couldn't even get up. And so 7 o'clock that morning, I don't even think the doctor's office, I just started calling.
Yeah.
And then finally.
And he spoke to Dr. Norton directly.
Yes, I talked to him and I let him know what happened. And he said, "Oh, no.
You need to come in fast now."
He said, that was so.
This was like the next day later, right? Like
the next
it was
day.
quick.
Yes.
And he was like telling the ultrasound, "Hey," he is such a funny doctor.
Yeah.
I can't even put it into words, but he was just shouting, "Hey, we need to put her on an ultrasound schedule right now."
Yeah, he got us in right away. And so when we got there, you went in to do the ultrasound.
Yes.
And it was so bad.
Oh my God.
That you could not even take the ultrasound on your leg.
I couldn't.
And Dr. Norton had to tell him not to put too much pressure on it because
it grew to the size of a golf ball.
It grew and it traveled. Mm-hmm. And so now
it was centimeters away from the main vein.
Yes. Which means
borderline DVT, death.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. We were
urgent.
We were facing death at that moment. And he was very, very frank with us, transparent with us, that if we did not go across the street to the hospital and get treated, it could have been fatal. You may not have survived tonight.
Yeah.
And so at that moment, I don't know. I don't want to say my life flashed before my eyes, but I had to remain very calm because I didn't want to upset you. But there were so many things running through my mind because I just sat there and I said, "Okay, God, you just took Pops from me. Are you trying to take my wife from me now?"
Yeah.
That's what I'm
just
saying
a month
internally.
Apart, pretty much, yeah.
I'm saying that internally. And so it was just so much going. And then anything that the doctor was saying, I was listening to, but still on the flip side, you ever watch Charlie Brown when the teacher's talking and you hear, "Mama, mama, mama, mama."
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing too, but I'm hearing enough to know what I need to do because now my mind is, okay, we're hopping in that car and we're going across the street right now.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could do was look at you and try to comfort you.
Yeah, because I had like this perplexed look in my face.
Yeah.
I was flushed white. It's kind of like, oh my God, I can't believe this. You hear about blood clots all the time. You hear about DVTs all the time. And you don't think that ever is going to happen to you. No. Psh, that's never going to happen to me. What are you talking about?
And your leg, it was so swollen.
Yeah, it was
and discolored.
Severely swollen.
And
red. So crazy.
He said, you
need to go to the ER
if you don't get a drip, you're not going to make it.
That's right. He said, either you need to go on Eliquis ASAP. or you need to be put on a heparin flush.
No,
ASAP.
there wasn't or. He said you had to do both.
I had to do both.
You had to go
much.
on a drip
right.
for it to go in right away.
Correct.
And then also take the medication, because that is how severe it was.
The situation was. And I guess because we are in healthcare, we don't realize, like, dealing with, we hear about this all the time because we work in healthcare, but when you are actually on the other side of the spectrum, like you are actually the patient needing a life-threatening treatment, it definitely puts a whole different perspective on life. And your life pretty much flashes before you. And I was like, oh my God. And then to make even matters worse, I couldn't get Eliquis, people. I could not get Eliquis because it requires a stupid prior authorization. Can you believe that? You are basically needing a life-threatening drug, and insurances have the audacity to basically say, no, why do they need it? And Eliquis is pretty expensive. And that goes to other similar blood clotting agents or similar drugs with that component. And I had prior auth. I needed prior auth, and I couldn't get that anywhere. Publix tried, the doctor tried. Remember, we were telling him, hey, Dr. Noren, we need an authorization stat. Like, we marked it urgent to the insurance and everything, and that still did not work. You pretty much have to be dying in order for you to get treatment here in the U.S.,
and she wasn't
which is so sad.
Quite there yet. And
no, I wasn't, but I was getting there.
I got her in the car, and we went over there, and Dr. Norton is so amazing. So this whole time, I sat there and I told you guys, I asked God what he was doing. And so even doing that, I just started praying and asking God just to keep her. Keep her for me. And it was like invisible tears, right? Because I wasn't crying, but I could feel like I was crying,
Yeah.
And so I wasn't crying because I didn't want my wife to see me like that, but I'm praying, talking to God, and also talking to her at the same time. And Dr. Norton, and this is all because of God. God used Dr. Norton. Dr. Norton was awesome because the minute we got there, they knew exactly who we were. He's not affiliated with that hospital.
Correct. But he called
personally
and spoke to the ER doctor in charge and told him, listen, there is a young lady that's coming. Her name is Iris. This is what's going on. This is what the ultrasound show. She is in borderline need of a heparin flush or Eliquis. You need to treat her ASAP.
Yes. And so they got you in there. And immediately, like we didn't even go to the waiting area.
Yeah.
They took you right back and immediately got her hooked up to a drip. And we stayed there for some hours.
And I just wanted to say this, like, it was very, how do I say it? Heartbreaking, concerning. Again, I'm telling you all the thoughts that came to my mind at that point. Devastation, confused. Why me? Because the month before, we just went through a horrible, unexpected loss, and I'm going to try not to get emotional about this.
Sorry. So it was really tough for us to hear this because, again, Dr. Norton, he wasn't one of those doctors that just said, hey, let's get you over here. No, he told us, he said, listen, you're hours away from death. That's exactly what he said. You're hours away from death. He said this thing grew big and grew so fast. He told us he had never seen anything like that before in his life in all the years that he has been doing that. Yeah.
And then I guess for me, the worst thing was putting my husband again through the process of going back to a hospital. And we, again, experiencing this unexpected loss. I was kind of wary of going back to the hospital because I saw my father-in-law just deteriorate in front of us. And that's something that is hard to get over. Not only it affected my husband, but it also affected all of us because we were there basically to the end. And that was very hard for us to kind of get over. But for me, the hardest part was, oh my God, I'm putting my husband again through this and taking him back to the hospital and dealing with this. You know, this is not good for his health. I felt so heartbroken and like so bad that why am I putting my husband through this unnecessary stress again of going back to the hospital?
But it wasn't unnecessary, baby. You had no control over that.
That was my feeling. And I was like, I can't do this right now. My emotions were still dealing with losing Pops and also trying to be there as your rock. Cause you know, you were going through your tough time. You're grieving. Yeah. And I had to basically be strong for you through this grieving process, but going back again to the hospital, that was a lot for us. That was a lot for you.
Well, I'll tell you this.
For me, it was.
Let me tell you. Under any other circumstances, it probably would have been a lot. But at that moment in time, all of that was out of my brain. None of that was on my thought. Now, if you had said, hey, you know, this person's in the hospital, want to go visit them, I'll tell you, no, I'm not going to the hospital. But at that moment when everything was on the line for your life, none of that mattered to me. And so my only concern was you getting that drip.
Yeah, I remember.
Getting hooked up and getting that drip to go in, that IV, not drip. It wasn't a drip. It was an IV, and it was going straight to that. And so that was my only concern. Yeah. And so then we were able to finally, while we're at the hospital, they worked their magic. Dr. Norton worked his magic, and well, I'm not going to say magic. God intervened, and you was able to get your Eliquis. But while we walked out of there, we were able to get the prescription after we were there for some hours. So that happened, and then fast forward a week later.
We're back to the hospital again.
Well, so what happened is we were out, and my mom had been telling us, listen, you know, we had to take it easy because she can't travel too far or anything like that.
I was still dealing with this blood clot.
Yeah,
still there.
It was still there. It's still there.
Again, this is not a cure.
Right.
Blood clotting prescription is not a cure.
But she wasn't.
But you're dealing with it.
She's no longer in the death zone.
Yeah,
hours
no longer
from
in
dying.
the bed.
She's not hours from dying, from what we were told.
And I just wanted to say something too. While I was that second time at the hospital, I kept on saying to myself, you know, oh my God, am I going to die? Am I going to die? But I don't know, this thing came over me because I started praying. I don't know if it had to be through the power of God. I was like, you know what? I'm going to get through this. I'm going to fight through this. And I had a better positive outlook once we left the ER that day.
The second time?
The second
Once you had got the IV.
Yes, I felt more confident than what I did the first time we went to the hospital. But I did a silent prayer and something came over me. And I said, you know what? I will beat this. I will make it to age 40. I will beat this. I will be there. So I just wanted to add that to,
absolutely.
So people could know what came over me.
Yeah. And then we... You know, my mom told us, you know, don't have her out. And so we picked her up one day to go to the store. Yeah,
we love Trader Joe's.
And I noticed the whole time you were looking very palish, more palish than normal. And Mama noticed it too.
Yeah.
And she
I was struggling.
To me, she said, listen, y'all need to go home.
Yeah.
I don't like the way that she's looking. I don't like the way my daughter's looking. She needs to go home. And so my wife is very hard-headed.
Well, no, it's not that. I'm a tough cookie.
She's very hard-headed.
I will not. Let me tell you something. I could take pain. I really can.
You can. You really can.
I could take pain, and I will not tell you that I'm in pain. I'm sitting here right now and will not tell you to your face because I don't want to, create any burden or be an issue to nobody.
She will take pain, and that's how I
will
knew
not tell you.
The DVT was very intense
Oh my
because
God,
you were in
yeah.
pain. So I noticed that she is really, really pale and pinkish. So we get out of Trader Joe's and, take her home. And then pretty much throughout the night, she looks like she's on the brink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like she's going to pass out.
Couldn't catch my breath.
Couldn't catch her breath. So we spent our anniversary
Yeah.
in the ER.
Our 10th year anniversary.
10th year wedding anniversary in the ER because she had taken Eliquis and, she had her female thing going on as well. And
Let's
so you
just
lost,
say it how it is. The menstrual cycle.
Yes. And so she had lost so much blood.
Yeah. I had lost not only just regular blood, but triple that times 10.
So she was on the point of needing a transfusion, a blood transfusion.
Yeah.
She was almost at the brink, but they did so. We went all the way back to the hospital and went apart, because that's where I trust. I wouldn't go down the street again. And she was right on the brink of needing a blood transfusion, but they got so much medicine in you before doing that. But they prevented. But they came to us to let us know, hey, that
was almost close.
That was going to be. It was the next
so
step.
bad. They had to call my gynecologist. Like, hey, we have your patient here. What do we do?
Yeah.
But yeah, and come to find out, just a little, tidbit here for you all, but it's pretty common, when a female is on blood thinners and they go through their monthly cycle that is more severe.
Yes.
Triple that.
And you were too active.
I was very active. And on top of that, when you lose a lot of blood, you just, I didn't have any energy. I couldn't even get up. Remember when I was in the couch, you were like, get up. I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't get up.
Yeah, I remember because I almost carried you to the car.
And I remember I was talking to mommy on the phone and she was like, like in the Puerto Rican mom, Nena, go to the hospital. This is not right, And my mom and my dad ended up coming too. So I thought that was cute.
Yeah. So, it was a lot. We had been in the hospital 3 times.
3 times.
In less than a week.
Yeah.
Because we went to the hospital day after Christmas and then this was New Year's, which is our anniversary. So finally, after a day there, she was able to get back. And so the journey was really just starting because now
I had to cancel my trips.
Every trip was canceled.
Yeah, I had to basically watch this, clot, making sure that it continues to disintegrate, reducing and away from the main vein, So I was so disappointed because I had to do more follow-ups with the vascular doctor and
follow-ups.
Yeah, well, many, many appointments to make sure and continue to monitor it, that it didn't grow, that it didn't, go any crazier than what it was. But thankfully it did not. And I just have to say this because it broke my heart. It just really broke my heart. I had to cancel my New York Broadway trip. I was supposed to see Hamilton. Shout out to my brother from another mother. I know you're hearing this, but I was devastated.
Josie.
I know. And let me tell you guys something. I even downloaded the soundtrack to Hamilton and I was like, I'm going to learn that soundtrack. I'm going to be ready. I'm going to know all the songs. So I was devastated. I was devastated the fact that I couldn't really celebrate my 10th year anniversary with you. We couldn't go out. We had plans to leave out of town.
And we had plans
things to do.
And we had plans for your 40th.
It broke my heart. It broke my heart to pieces, like the most because of that. And I couldn't celebrate my 40th and travel. So it was many, many months that you have to monitor this. And for those of you that don't know, typically when somebody does suffer a blood clot, you cannot just resume your regular activities. You have to be on basically every 2 weeks, you have to seek medical attention or go to your doctor, making sure you're taking your blood clotting medication. And you cannot travel. It is not suggested to travel, especially in the air or any of that or any other of that stuff.
Well, let's be clear. Your situation was very special because some people can resume.
Yeah,
but because you had a DVT, not only did you have to do that, but My wife, ever since that point, up until 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, actually, she's had to have procedures done.
Yep.
Each and every week. We're taking off, and I'm taking her. It's in office
to mitigate
with Dr.
the blood
Norton.
clots.
Absolutely,
yes.
where he has to go into her leg.
In a vein there with lidocaine. And let me tell you guys something. They are very painful procedures. After
week.
that, well, I couldn't start the medical procedures till after the blood clot it basically improved so much that it ended up looking like a half moon.
Yeah, it traveled back.
It traveled
and that's part
back,
of the procedure.
and it's gone.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say, well, she is gone, but he has to make sure he goes back into that area, to that vein, to basically
the blood
close
clot will
it off.
Stay. Yeah, it will stay, but it won't go into the deep vein.
It's nowhere near it. Amen to that. I wish I could clap here and talk about that. But then after that, woo woo. But after that, I had to basically get these medical procedures on a weekly basis, and I had to ask for time off of work and all that, where it's called Varithena. And what it does, it mitigates blood clots from happening again, and basically is, without getting too medical here, basically what they do, they inject foam. Yes, foam into the veins to mitigate that and close them off from the main veins. So it's very interesting how they do it. And I am gonna be completely honest, they're very painful. I had good weeks and I had bad weeks. I had weeks where I wanted to sit down and cry, and I mean, it was horrible because lidocaine hurts. I know, it's like, how can lidocaine hurt? Because it's a numbing agent. It burns, it stings, and it's a catheter that goes in you, and it's a series of injections and little pricks that go through your leg. You cannot just inject your leg. You have to work it into increments to reach the main vein. But overall, we finished our treatments. Amen to that. And my doctor's actually giving me a rest or a break here. And I don't resume to start seeing him again till in October.
And that's funny because I remember when you first did it, you're like, oh, I can drive myself. I don't need to take it off of work.
Of course, I'm Superwoman. What are you talking about? I'm still Superwoman. I want to make that clear to you. But you know what? I was like, yeah, I'm going to drive myself to these appointments, but no, you cannot. And the severity of these procedures is you got to get up every hour to walk. You know, you have to keep the vein, the veins moving, your legs moving. You know, you have to make sure you monitor anything that happens. I actually had a bit of a flare up there. I actually had what they call it, a thrombosis, where the vein basically gets a little bit overworked or irritated. And what happened is that day I was actually doing wallpaper work around the house, and I should not have. I was up the stairs, and I kind of irritated that vein because it was still healing from the procedures. So you just have to be very careful. And, you know, to this day, I have to make sure, because I do work at a sitting down job, it is suggested that if you are working an 8-hour job sitting down, you have to get up. It's suggested for Vascular Association to get up every hour and walk for 15 minutes or 5 minutes, the minimum. And for every 15 minutes, you have to move your calf muscles at least. That goes the same if you're traveling up in the air. We should actually be standing up every hour. So just to backtrack a little bit to tell you guys, when COVID hit, we were so, how do I say it? Everybody was so not only shocked that we were going through this pandemic, but it caused a lot of stress, a lot of weight gain, a lot of changes to our health, that a lot of us, like myself, we worked a lot from home. Like, I think I do work harder when it comes to working from home. And you just stay on your computer and you work. You don't get up because you got to do that email. You got to answer. You got to be the best at what you do. And that actually starts catching up to you. It caught up to me. Another thing that attributed to it, as a female that has medical problems or female problems, you know, PCOS, endometriosis, and fibroids, birth control are not your best friend. Birth control is what also attributed to the blood clot. 110%. A lot of these gynecologists will come back and say, sure, we could treat your prolonged period with birth control. You have PCOS. Let's give you birth control. Birth control is a freaking joke. Stay away from it.
Well, my personal opinion, I think you got it because of that COVID shot.
And COVID shot too, but it's also proven that it caused, couple blood clots on some individuals. So little things like that I could sit here and tell you all that it attributed to that blood clot. So now I had to learn the hard way. I actually know how to take my breaks. I basically step away from my desk. I get up every hour, stretch my legs. You have to do that to yourself because, again, we were doing it before the pandemic, but we have to make sure that we're doing that now. So just little things like that you need to watch out for. And this goes to everyone just from personal experience, because I know many of you are listening to this and basically saying, that will never happen to me. Well, it happened to me. Yeah. So watch out for that.
Yeah. So, not saying that we're out of the woods, but by God's grace, yes, we were able to make it out of the woods, because I know, again, sometimes people go, well, what's a blood clot? Everybody gets that. Sure.
No.
This was a DVT. And again, Dr. Norton sat there.
He saved my life.
That pretty much my wife could have passed away throughout the night because of how fast it grew.
Yeah.
And at that moment, he said we were hours away from that actually happening, her going into cardiac arrest.
Yeah.
And so it's
scary.
Again, God really showed up and showed out, and the turnaround that has happened, even though she's having to go through she had to go through these procedures weekly for 9 weeks, having that happen to her, it just, hey, I praise and thank God every day. So
I'm grateful. Let me tell you something. I am grateful to be here. This is why this 40th birthday celebration hit close to the heart, definitely hit home, because it's a celebration of life. Yes.
Because we were originally supposed to be in Mexico.
Yes.
For her birthday.
Darn
all
it.
Exclusive,
I'm telling you, it just shifted all my plans around. Yeah, darn it.
It happened. But I would have rather spent your 40th sitting there on our front porch drinking tea together than not to have you.
I'm just grateful to be here, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, it is definitely one of those testaments of God, a sign of God. I am grateful. I have a different perspective on life now that I've been on the other side of the spectrum as a patient myself. Our healthcare system sucks, now that I understand that. But I'm happy to sit here and tell you guys my story, raising awareness to this cause, because it could happen to you. And, you just have to be careful. Wear your compression socks. Wear them. Compressions. And I'm trying to actively get involved, with the National Blood Clot Alliance. It's an organization that basically raises awareness to this cause, and working with them, volunteering and educating myself and educating millions and millions of people for this cause, because it could happen to anybody. Hopefully I'll have more information on that later soon to come, for those that want to actively also volunteer and get to know the association a little bit more. But little things like that just change your whole perspective. And it's unfortunate that, we look back and we're like, man, I should have known. I should have been more careful. I should have walked around more. I should have been, taking care of my health a little bit more, especially during the pandemic. But now it's like, wow, I'm here. I'm just blessed, y'all. I'm so happy.
Yes, absolutely.
Amen.
Amen to that. So that was our little thing that we had this year. And like I said, we had to switch up a little bit for the birthday. But again, I would have been blessed just to sit outside and have a cup of tea with her for her birthday. And
amen.
Happy for that. So
wish it was wine.
No, not anymore. So that's that story. We'll be back again, as I stated. Next episode that we have here will be Ask Us Anything. Submit some questions in to us. send text message at the top of the.
Please do.
I mean, anybody, even if you're family, just
even if it's a silly question.
Yeah, it's silly. Anything. Just when you open up the podcast, right there is highlighted. It says send us a text. Click it. Boom. It will send it to us. And we're going to, answer the question on the show. And if you want your name, put your name there. If you don't, you don't. It's good. We're fine with that.
And I just want to thank our listeners for this time, the opportunity to share my story and telling you all what happened to me. And this is basically, I'm taking my mask off and sharing transparent, everything that we went through, what happened to me. And I just hope that this helps someone in need. And I'm just grateful, like I said, to be here 40 years and tell you all my story. I know many folks, do not make it, especially with DVT being so dangerous and stuff. So thank you all for just listening to me, being transparent. It takes a lot for me to be, honest, shed a couple tears there from my heart, exactly how I felt. And because I usually play this strong woman role, superwoman, which I still am. Don't get it twisted now. But I really appreciate you all for allowing me to do this. Thank you, hubby. Yeah. It's just, I'm grateful.
Absolutely.
Blessed. And also, baby, I just wanted to thank you so much for everything that you had to go through with me, holding my hand, taking time off to go to my doctor's appointments, reaching out to the doctor, just being there for moral support and everything, and, throughout this process. And I couldn't even be more grateful. And when they really say, hey, through thick and thin and sickness and in health, this is exactly what it is and more. You see the best and good parts of your partner. And I'm just grateful that you were there. And I know that I know for a fact I would not have been able to do this without your support and love. So thank you so much, my love. I'm so grateful for you.
Oh, I appreciate it. But that's just what we're supposed to do. You know what I mean? And I definitely would not have let you go through this by yourself. I know how overbearing I can be, but But it's a good thing. And, I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, my love. I'm just so grateful for you. I love you. I love you too. You're very welcome. Thank you guys so much for listening, supporting, downloading. Share us, please. We are definitely grateful for all of that. We'll be back next week. As I said again, make sure you hit that send us a text link there for, not next week, I'm sorry, the week after. But send us a question or comment or anything. We will answer everything for the next episode for Conversations with Ronnie Keith on the next time that we're here. Thank you so much for supporting.
Thank you.
This has been Conversations
with Ronnie Keith
and Iris.
Woo-hoo.